Hey guys, it's Sophia again. I'm back again doing some practice problems with you guys for our general chemistry lecture. On today's video, we're going to be focusing on chapter 8 in our general chemistry 1, material. In today's practice problem, we are going to be covering electronegativity of atoms. For the exact problem, I'm going to be helping y'all learn how to predict the relative electronegativity of atoms in general. We'll have a couple examples of how to do that, but before we start, we are going to need 3 things like we always do. 2 things we always need. We need a piece of paper and a pencil. It might seem silly, but writing down usually does tend to help you remember and help the concept stick. 3rd thing we are going to need to do is something we always need in chemistry, a periodic table. So once you have all 3 of those things handy and ready, we can jump right into this problem and get started. Okay, so we are on our second problem today. In our second problem, we are going to be reordering the given elements so they are in order of electronegativity. It's going to be a 3-part problem. In our first part, we're listing the elements in decreasing electronegativity. In part B, we are listing the elements in increasing electronegativity. And in part C, we are listing the elements in decreasing electronegativity. Before we start this problem, there is going to be trends on the periodic table for electronegativity that we need to keep in mind before we start doing this problem. So the trends of electronegativity that are going to be on the periodic table, we are going to have, as we go up the periodic table, you are going to see an increase in electronegativity. So as we go up, there's an increase. And like before, as we also go to the right on the periodic table, we are also going to see an increase in electronegativity. This is just important to memorize and know all the different trends on the periodic table. It's going to make your life a little easier in chem and hopefully a little bit easier to understand most of the problems that we are going to be doing. So just keep that in mind. It's not a bad thing to remember, but so I do recommend knowing some of the trends or knowing the basic trends, like going up and to the right or up and to the left, depending on what you are looking at. So we're going to jump right into this problem. So our first problem, we are listing the elements in decreasing electronegativity. The elements we're given chromium, tungsten, magnesium, and gold. I'll be using a highlighter tool to just highlight out the elements that we are given from the periodic table, just so it's a little easier to read and for you to see when I'm doing this problem. So first thing I'm going to do, like I said before, I'm going to highlight each of the elements that we will be using in this problem. We will be using chromium, tungsten, magnesium, and we will also be using gold. So once we have those highlighted, we're going to attack this problem. So we are listing them in decreasing order of electronegativity. So we're going to find the thing that is most electronegative first. So we're going to go all the way up on our periodic table and all the way to the right. And that's going to tell us that gold is going to be the most electronegative element that we were given in our problem. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to write. We're just going to write AU to symbolize gold. So now we're only down to 3 elements for chromium, tungsten, and magnesium. So going back to the periodic table, we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to go all the way up and to the right. So as we go all the way up and to the right, we're going to see magnesium. So we're going to write MN down on our sheet so we can get the answer. Perfect. Now we are down to the final 2. The final 2 being chromium and tungsten. They are in the same column. So that just means that at the bottom, that's going to be the least electronegative, and at the top, that is going to be the most electronegative. So in this case, chromium is going to be more electronegative than tungsten. So we are going to write CR and then W on our paper, indicating the proper order of electronegativity in this first part of our problem. So now I'm just going to erase my highlighting so we are able to highlight the next set of elements. So our next set of elements are going to be calcium, scandium, calcium, strontium, and beryllium. So we're going to go find those on the periodic table once again, taking my highlighter and highlighting these elements. So we're going to highlight our first element, which is calcium. So we're going to highlight that, and we're going to highlight scandium, and then potassium, and strontium. Sorry, I'm going out of order. I'm just reading off real quick. And then we're going to highlight beryllium as the very last element. So now that we're here, we are increasing, doing it in order of increasing electronegativity. So we are going to find the least electronegative element first. So the first element that we're see going up is going to be calcium. So obviously that's going to be the least electronegative because it is at that very bottom, and it's that first column, first group, sorry. So we're going to write CS first. So now we're down there. Next one, we are going to write, so we have, you might think it's strontium, but it's actually going to be potassium because since strontium is in group 2, that means it's more electronegative than group 1. So despite what you may think, it's actually calcium is going to be our next, potassium, not calcium, I'm misspoken, sorry. Potassium is going to be our next least electronegative. So now we can go to group 2. Same thing applies from before. CC, I believe it's going to be SR is going to be our next one, and then we're going to have BE, just because it's on the same row, and then scandium is going to be the last and the most electronegative, just because of how everything fell on the periodic table, and by using those trends we saw that. Once again, I'm going to erase it so we are able to see what the part C is. For part C, we are listing the elements in decreasing order. We have chlorine, xenon, neon, and bromine. So those are going to be our 4 elements that we're using. So let's go find those in the periodic table, and then we're going to highlight them once again just to make them stand out. So we have chlorine, and then we are going to highlight xenon, then we are going to highlight neon, and then bromine. And once we have those all highlighted, we are going to attack this problem once more. So we're doing it in decreasing order, so we're going to find our most non-electronegative, least electronegative, and in our case, it's actually once again, like before, you have Xe, you may be like, oh, it's lower, but it's more electronegative than bromine. Sorry, we are doing decreasing order. We are finding the most electronegative. Sorry, neon is going to be our most electronegative. I don't know what I'm talking about today. Sorry. So neon's going to be our most electronegative. And then below that, our next most electronegative is going to be xenon, which is going to be Xe. And then our next most electronegative is going to be chlorine because it is above bromine, and we all know from the trends that as you go up, you are increasing electronegativity, and to the right, we are increasing electronegativity. So we can write Cl and then Br, and then you're done with your problem.